Hello everybody, and welcome to the final deck roundup for our Arkham Horror for the Feast of Hemlock Vale blind run. On the video back when I made this for when I showcased our level 0 decks, there was a lot of people saying, hey, I want to see the final XP versions of this as well. So you ask, and I, give you what you ask for. It's just as simple as that as a content creator. So I have here the decks leading into the final scenario, which you're actually going to see on Friday this week. At the time of this video that I'm recording this, we've already played the final scenario, and was it a good time? Well, we're going to have to see on Friday when that comes out. We're not talking about the campaign here, we're talking about our 3 decks. Notably, before I get into the decks proper, if you want to see this for future campaigns, I'm going to do this for our rerun of Hemlock Vale, which is also going to be starting next week. If you want to see this for other campaigns, please let me know in the comments. It's a good way to, people want to see deck content. It's a good way for us to showcase that deck content. And then also, in addition to that, you can find a link to all of these decks down in the video description if you want to go along at your own pace. Or alternatively, just open up the decks, clone them, and then leave. I'm not going to be upset if you do that. But let's dive in first with Travis's Kohaku deck. So this was a paradoxical Kohaku deck. That the plan was to, fill the bag up with blesses and curse tokens, and then use those tokens to trigger Paradoxical Covenant and just be like a happy camper because of that. There was also other synergy that worked with this as well, such as the Rod of Carnimagos and the Key of Solomon, and then also the Broken Diadem, and as you can also see at the bottom, the 2 Seal of the Elders. I'm going to talk about just vague deck how the deck did during the campaign without talking about specifics, just like so you can kind of see how this deck, if it achieved its goal. And while the deck does require a little bit of luck to be on your side, there were times when Travis feasted, and there was times where Travis famined with his Paradoxical Covenant build in hopes to actually trigger and do stuff. It was a little bit unreliable in regards to that. However, the deck did warp into actually a pretty cool kind of support deck, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of weird to say that this deck that loads the bags with curses more than anything else is actually a support deck. But Travis actually did a lot of work as Kohaku to help Bryn and I achieve our goals even better, which is really cool. If you don't remember, this campaign started with the 3 of us saying we were going to do flexing. Did we actually do that? No. We actually all went hyper-focused kind of in our spot in ways that I didn't expect us to. The reason why I chose to make a Wilson Richards flex deck was because I did not think that I would be able to make it work as the main goon. However, Wilson Richards actually made it work as the main goon very, very, very well. So as this happened, Bryn became more of the clover, I became more of the goon, and Travis kind of filled the flex role. He was kind of more flex leaning clues, because he has, as you see, the 2 read the signs. But he had things like Seal of the Elders to help grab clues and also kill enemies. But mostly Travis just kind of kept us alive. He did this he kept us filled and kind of just supported us to make sure we were working. He gave us cards with Scroll of Prophecies. He gave us, and also with Deep Knowledge, he gave us healing with Key of Solomon. And he kind of kept himself alive as well. He kept triggering Olive McBride to get as much value as he could out of his Paradoxical Covenant. As I said earlier, sometimes it hit, sometimes it missed. He played Absolution, I think, for 15 at one point, because Scrimshaw Charm is an absolutely wild card. I will say that I think this was actually a very interesting run, because I don't think we actually felt the curse tokens in this run, which is it was interesting, because most of the other cursed decks that you see actually function, you feel the curse tokens if you're not the cursed player. However, with this one, it wasn't really that much of a thing, because Travis was using his curse tokens to advance the game state, give himself more actions, or alternatively, drawing them himself with the Paradoxical Covenant and trying to dig them out. So I think Kohaku brings a definite change to the usual curse archetype that you would see, and I think also as well, obviously the paradoxical thing works really well for him. A few highlights from this deck. I think Rod and Carnimagos underperformed. I think Kia Solomon overperformed. I mean, like, I don't mean in the sense that I think the card's like only mid and it did great. I think Kia Solomon is an excellent card, and I think it's also somewhat broken. You have to be in the right deck, I think, to really take advantage of it, because I think with Kia Solomon, you kind of want to use both halves for it to really be worth it for experience. But this deck was really able to do that. Scrimshaw Charm also was a fantastic card. I think Olive McBride, funnily enough, I think this was actually one of the... I think she did work, but I think she didn't do as much work as the other times I've seen Olive do work. Absolution, I think, is... can we coin the term Absolution here? Because it's... I think it sucks. It's a Guts, like, worst case, it's still, like, playable in a deck. But it never did what it intended to do, unfortunately, to like the extent that you hope it would. But it is still a Guts worst case scenario, so there is that. Dawnstar is a cool card. The upgraded Read the Signs and Spectral Razor feel really good. They play really well, especially in this deck. The Seal of Elders also actually seems pretty good, and color me surprised. Travis hit the two boys at once twice, so like that's pretty good. Other than that, though, this is, I think, just like the remaining cards are pretty standard stuff. But I think this deck was pretty sweet, and I do suggest you check out the deck in action because it was really fun to watch Travis pilot it. On to Bryn's deck. Once again, this was an Underworld support deck, so I'm splitting this into 2 slides. We're going to do assets and then the events and skill. This deck was a big money Alessandra deck, and it was using Well Connected and Red Clock to just kind of, you know, get like pure value. The Black Fan was there for the high end to like really just like make everything pop, take a million actions, and just kick ass doing it. Bianca Katz, I think, is... Well, I generally don't think the card is great. For me personally, I do think Bianca Katz is actually a quite playable card. To even like a good to, I think, very good card in Alessandra. Spoiler alerts for the whole campaign here, just a mild one from a card analyzing standpoint. We never saw the evil version of Bianca come out because it's that easy to just like pass the tests if you need be. However, it becomes a lot easier to pass the tests when you have either a free parlay action, which Alessandra gives you, or if you're able to like make extra actions out of things like Red Clock or Black Fan. It's like kind of one of those things that just it's hard to take an action and only get a few resources, and it becomes easier with Bianca. If you compare her to Gregory Gry, I think like she's more consistent than Gregory Gry, but Gregory Gry allows you to be active with the economy, which is a big difference for it. Fake credentials, Bryn, I don't think played the card. You'll see in the last episode coming out on Friday, Bryn's thoughts on it. I think Eldritch Tongue is very impressive. Fox Mask is fine. I think the masks are not bad cards by any means, but I do think they are actually underperforming than what the community expectations were. People were going crazy about these masks, and I think overall the masks are actually just fine. Which is kind of crazy. Like even the Wolf Mask that I'm going to be talking about on my slide, I think also actually kind of just didn't really do as much as you expect them to, especially when you saw the fervor about all the conversations talking about them leading up to this. Well Connected 3, Bryn said that he should have upgraded to the Well Connected 3 earlier. It is true. The big difference from 4 to 5, it doesn't seem a lot, but like if you get 12 resources, you have +3 as opposed to only +2 for the level 0 version. And then also like the readying is really nice when you have like 30 resources in your pool and you don't mind like, you know, spending 2 to get +7 to 2 tests on your turn. Seems actually pretty good. On to the event side here. I think that this deck was actually like, it's like pretty standard. It's just like, it's like just a rogue action deck, but you just have like the parlay package in the event side. So like the assets are kind of plain. But like, as you see, Bryn's running his own Dawnstar from the new cards. We have Drain Essence, which I think is a very impressive card. It's a little bit awkward because if you heal too much, it's actually bad, right? Because it's not always a 2 damage spell. However, when it is and it's healing you, it's very nice. Grift, I think, has been pretty impressive. Bryn had some bad luck with Grift. I think with Grift, you don't want to be like, you want to be boosting your foot a little bit more to make sure. And Bryn wasn't really boosting his foot. As you can see, if you remember in the level 0 version of the deck, he actually had the moon in here, but he took the moon out as he upgraded further. Money talks, you know, a lot of money. Payday, a lot of actions, the payoff for it. Snitch, obviously a very, very powerful card. In a parlay deck, it works really well. Stall for time. Actually, honestly, I thought Stall for time was going to kind of just be kind of chill to bad. But it actually, I think it was working really well here. Again, I think it has to work in Alessandra. Otherwise, like, what's the frickin' point? Like, if it doesn't work in Alessandra, the card's cooked. So, like, the question is now, is it going to be good outside of Alessandra? That remains to be seen. But I think in Alessandra, it got the job done, and it actually gave us some big boosts for it. Sure Gamble, there was a great story, a great moment when Bryn played Sure Gamble. It might have already gone live when it happened, but he was like, this card is just as good as it was when I pulled it out of the binder like 5 years ago. And it's true. Like, the card is actually still quite impressive. And I think it's really nice in, like, especially going back to the previous slide, an Underworld support deck, because it gives you it's easier to put in your deck because it only costs 3 experience. You don't need to worry about the other one, and it's just value when you see it. Vamp was also not really that impressive. Brandon at a certain point played the Vamp, and he was like, I think this card's actually bad. And I also think, like, after seeing it in action a few times, even if you, like, are passing all the tests, I think it's not worth the 3 experience. I think Vamp 3 is actually kind of mediocre, seeing it in action. This remains, I mean, it remains subject to change. I'm going to see how it goes as I also explore Alessandra myself and play Vamp a little bit. But overall, I think Vamp is kind of just not actually great. Well Dressed, however, did impress me. It's a promise of power, and you're doing a lot of parlays, so I think the card is actually quite impressive in the right deck. Obviously, Alessandra's the right deck, or alternatively in the right campaign, which Hemlock Vale I think is definitely a good campaign for Well Dressed. There may or may not be a lot of parlay actions in the Feast of Hemlock Vale. On to my deck here. This is a very simple Justin deck. My decks are always just all about like packing as much efficiency as I can into it, and like just not thinking too hard about what I'm doing. The Lanterns made it, and same with the Matchbox. Those both made it throughout the whole campaign, because I was a flex at the start of this campaign. I was like, I'm gonna flex, and then I never ended up really doing it. At the later points, Matchbox was kind of just there to help a little bit, Travis or Bryn, and then like I used them to protect my sledgehammers against things that discarded assets in play. But this deck's game plan was relatively simple, which was play the sledgehammer and then like reliable the sledgehammer and then just swing for $1 million. I thought that Wilson Richards' stat line, I would feel it. But I actually really kind of didn't feel it that much, which is kind of crazy to say, because I was expecting to. But like, he really has 4s in his stats. So like Wilson Richards with the sledgehammer and 2 reliables, he hits for 3 for his base, +1 for his ability, +1 for the sledgehammer. So we're at 5, plus the 2 for the reliables is 7. Now of course, with all this said, the thing that I noticed most about Wilson Richards is that, and this is not a controversial opinion, a lot of people feel this about him as well, is that his card draw is awful. It's true, his card draw is awful, which also makes his signature ad hoc also pretty awful. But that's where Travis came in, and Travis supported by giving a bunch of cards, which really helped through this. The Hallowed Mirror, I think could have been... I think if it was an Ancestral token, I think actually across the board the team would have done a lot better. But I told that to Travis, and Travis said, no, you wouldn't have put an Ancestral token in this deck because you built it as a flex deck to start. And it's true. I did, right? Like, we had ways to flex in the starting thing that I slowly phased out. And also, I was a little bit scared of Wilson Richards dying, but apparently Wilson Richards is also actually kind of okay in the Mythos phase. I guess I just got lucky or like used my resources at the right time, but we never really felt it. I ended up not playing Backpack too much because I lucked out and drew Sledgehammer in my opening hand a good number of times. Greta Wagner, I think, was really impressive, obviously. Matchbox, I think the card is killer. I think the card's insane. I'm excited to play Matchbox in a deck that actually wants to use it because the card seems Very powerful for one resource. Absolutely insane. Wolf Mask, I think, is good, but I think is less good than I thought it was going to be. I think the card is still nice. Even in this Wilson Richards deck, I put the Wolf Mask in here because I thought, hey, I only have 3 Fists. I should use Wolf Mask to help boost it. And I think in the earlier campaign, it was helpful for that. But I think actually I probably should have cut it as we got deeper into the campaign, or going down to a 1-of as opposed to going to a 1-of Jury Rig down the road. I got a Charisma because we earned some story assets, Sacred Covenant, Stick to the Plan as well, just to make my Dynamite Blast and push to the limit, and my E-Cash 2s a bit more consistent. I wanted to push to the limit, so my dream in this deck was to ad hoc a Sledgehammer and then push that Sledgehammer to the limit. Did I do it? Well, you'll have to watch the campaign to see, but that ultimately was the goal of the deck. I love Reliable. I think Reliable is a great card, and I actually think I want to play it more. The card's just, like, actually kind of goated. It's not, like, bonkers or anything. It's just, like, it's, like, a good card. It's just very efficient. Tinker, I think, also could have been sided out earlier, because it was part of that dream for the Sledgehammer Lantern. And while I did take advantage of it in the earlier scenarios, by the end, I swinga the hammer. I swinga the hammer, you know? So we had that. I put Overpowers here to boost my Sledgehammer attacks, but also give me more card draw, which was really nice for. Strong Armed works really well with the Sledgehammer bottom ability, and then take the initiative to help me in the Mythos phase. And of course, Vicious Blow, just because killing a 3 health enemy in 1 attack is very nice. Those were all of our decks for the Feast of Hemlock Vale blind run. Again, if you want to see me doing this going forward for future campaigns, please let me know down in the video description. I form a lot of our content based on what you say, so please let me know. You can also like this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.